without further ado, let's go to Mr. Grinstead. He's going to put on a fabulous demonstration for us tonight. It will be a recorded video, and all questions and comments, please keep them in your hip pocket, and we will discuss them at the conclusion of the video. I am going to mute everybody. Once I mute everybody, Bob, you will need to unmute yourself. So I am muting everybody now. Go ahead, Bob.
All right. I was going to show you how I turn these. That's what my video is about tonight. But yeah, this is a John Lucas idea. That's where I saw these. But they are little cute little gifts. I mean, you could make several and hang on a tree. You could just give them out as individual gifts, and that's what I'm going to do. But there's various in lights. One guy on here was talking about the lights being where you could turn them, you could buy them where they stay on for 6 hours and turn off, or 8. So if you wanted to put them on a tree or someplace, then it would turn itself off. So that was a good idea. But anyway, let me start my video, see if I can't do a screen share here and go to the video. And let's see how I did it. All right, I start off by figuring out what size block I need. This little candle that I have is 1.5 inches in diameter. So I know I'm going to drill 1.5 inch hole for this. And I know that I need some meat around the side of this to be able to turn it. So it needs to be about 2 inches. My blocks are not 2 inches. They're actually a little less than 1 7/8 inches. And they work out fine. It'll be fine. It's just I know I'm going to cut that 1.5 inch hole in here, so I don't have a lot of room here to play with. If it's a true 2-inch square block, then you would have more meat around it to be able to turn away a little safer. So anyway, I do mark the centers. I use this little tool to mark the center with, and I just go around it 4 times, and you can see where the center is. You can see that I'm going to have to come in. Jumping here. I'm going to have to go into this to find the center of this one, but the center this way, both the lines lined up. So that is my center. And I can do the same thing over here. Here's my center this direction, and here's the center the other way. And I just find the center between those 2 lines here and mark the centers. So I mark the centers and come back and actually put a little hole in it. My drill will go in the right spot, because what I want to do is to kind of drill these out a little bit. When I drill those, and the bit I'm using, I forget what it's called, but it's really and a little lighter piece here to put behind it maybe. But it's for drilling the starter drill bit, I think is what you call it, because it is big until you get to the tip here, and then these are smaller, so you can drill smaller holes. But the drill bit doesn't bend on you. And all I want to do here is just enough to get that step drive to catch, and also to have my slide tail stop to catch it. Okay, so now let me go start turning these, I know I'm gonna need to square up the end. I know I'm gonna have to come in at least this far, drill in at least this far with an 1.5-inch drill bit. And so I can start my window here that I want to show past that. So let me go get that set up and I'll show you that. Let me put the center in. Saying I keep saying step center, but I'm not really sure what that's called. But anyway, you can see it, and you'll know what it is. But to keep from having to change my chuck every time, I'm just going to use this center. I believe it'll hold it without a problem.
I think you're muted. I'm sorry.
Bob, are you doing any talking?
Shows him being muted, Dan.
Bob's muted too. Not just his video, but he is.
Okay, now, how about now?
Gotcha now.
Okay. And all I want to do now is to round it off. Let me back up just a little bit here where you can see it. Probably backed up too far.
No, that's fine.
I believe that's enough to allow my chuck to get it. It is flat on the side, but as long as it can grip it, that's all I'm worried about. It's a real soft wood, so it'll be fine. All right, so I have it in the chuck, and all I want to do now is to round it off. All right, so now I have, it fairly squared up on the end. I've got it almost round. And I really don't care because I'm gonna move around with it anyway. Right now, all I want to do is to mark off my segments here. I know that I want this to fit in at least to here. So that's what I'm going to drill to. And then I want a little lip here before I start my window. And then I want this window to be about 1.5 inches. I don't like a real tall window. The one I show here that I made earlier was a taller. This one here is just going to be 1.5 inch window. And then I want another little edge before I start my lid. So let me well, I can see the mark. I don't know if you can or not, but I can see those marks. And here I just want to take it down a little bit because I don't have a lot of room to play with it. And this I want to take down a little further. Because I think it looks better if it's more defined.
This is a big meeting, and so far we haven't heard anything substantial that's coming from the city. And the American people are hungry for something substantial to come out of the meeting between the president and China. There's a lot of bad taste left.
Right, so this is the window that's going to show. I can either drill this on 4 sides like you do on normal ice drilled or whatever they call it. You drill it 4 times to make a little ornament. But you drill those windows in here. But at this point, I'm going to route these windows out because I want little slots in here. So this is probably smooth enough for right now. I can redefine this later, but you don't want to have to cut most of this away after you get the slots cut. So you want to do this first. You know the diameter of this, and you can do them with calipers and all that, but this to me is an easier way. You just wrap a piece of tape around it and then mark it so that I know right there is the diameter around this thing. So I know it's that long, that far around there. Okay, from the tape, we know that the distance around this, the circumference, is 124 millimeters. Now I use millimeters because it's a whole lot easier to divide than or multiply than fractions. So I've got 124 millimeters. My drill bit or my router bit is a 1/4 inch router bit. It's a 1/4 inch spiral bit. And a 1/4 inch is approximately 6 millimeters. So let's say that I want to go 12 times around this thing. So I take 12 windows in here. You could have 11, you could have 10, you could have whatever you want. If you have 12 windows, so you take 12 and divide that into 124, the length of the circumference, and you end up with 10.33 millimeters for each one of these little windows in here, from here to here. Okay, if I take out my router bit, which is 6 millimeters, and I have the actual portion of wood that's going to be left is 4.33 millimeters wide. So as you can see up here in my example, this is the part I'm going to route out at 6 millimeters. I'm going to have a little wood piece inside this that's going to show as 4 millimeters. So every 10.3 millimeters, I'm going to have another window. So I need to create an index wheel that has 12 indexes around it. If I decided I wanted this to be wider, let's say that it's, I don't know, whatever it'd be. Let's say that I do want this wider. Instead of dividing it by 12 and getting 12 windows around it, I do 11 windows around it, or I do 10 windows around it. But it's the same example. So let me show you the index wheel. Yeah. So this is mathpolate.com, math, POLATE.com. And it's a graph paper. I have gone to the actual polar graph, and I can tell it the thickness of the line. You can tell it how many circles are in here. You can tell it how many spokes, and these individual spokes. In my scenario, I wanted 12. If you wanted it, let's say you wanted it 9 spokes, then you do a 9 spokes. I still have my 2 circles here, and I can regenerate it, and it'll put out 9 spokes around here and still have 2 circles. So let's go back to my 12 and regenerate. So now I've got 12 spokes around this circle. If I want to print this, I can download it. Okay. And then I don't know if you can see it or not, but I have a little print deal over here. I can hit print and then come in and print down at the bottom, and then it'll print that for me. And once I get it printed, my printer is not printing ink on this side. But once I get it printed, I can take that and paste this on a piece of anything. Just paneling. It's a lightweight or heavyweight, whatever you want. And then you come back wherever this intersection is out here and you drill holes. So you're going to drill holes all the way around each one of these 12 little spots. And then that becomes your index. So now you have an index, a circle indexed by 12 slots. And I can use this to drill a hole like on a normal lathe. I mean, you have what, an inch diameter hole that would go around your chuck or go around your headstock. In my scenario, I'm going to drill a 5/8 inch hole because that's what I'm using as a 5/8 inch shaft out of my headstock. Okay, I have my index wheel created. It's out of just a piece of paneling. It doesn't have to be very thick, and the thinner it is, probably the better it is, because you can move it around your point that you're going to hold this with. I have a 5/8 inch hole in mind for my 5/8 inch spindle. If you were going to do this, you might probably going to want a 1 inch hole or an 1.25 inch hole, whatever will fit your headstock. Because your chuck is going to go on the top of this and hold it. So you screw it on here and screw it tight to where this doesn't move in relationship to your chuck. And I have the holes drilled at each one of these spokes. I've got 12 spokes because I'm going to divide that distance around that circumference into 12. All right, so I have my index wheel on here. It is behind the chuck, and it's fixed where it's kind of stationary, so it doesn't move in relationship to the router bit. You can put sandpaper, you can put, you could glue it if you want to, but I wouldn't suggest that. Just put a piece of sandpaper back in it, and it should hold it where it does not turn when the chuck turns. And then I have another banjo on here. This banjo I have made for different things, but it holds a platform for me. So let me show you the platform. Here's my platform. It's nothing but a piece of 3/4 inch stock. It has a spacer in here that I've created to get it whatever tool I'm going to put on here at the right height, so it can be centered with the lathe. And then I have just a sacrificial platform on top of it. This platform is going to actually hold my router. My router is going to sit up here and slide back and forth in here in a carriage. Let me show you my carriage. Yeah, I did have to put some sandpaper. I just tore off a piece of sandpaper and put it through here, and then put pressure up against my tailstock and tighten down the chuck so it will not move. So now it is stationary with the headstock. My index wheel stationary with the headstock. This is my little router platform. It's nothing but a straight edge on this side, so I can run it up against this edge. And I can push it through here, and then I can slide this back and forth like a carriage. I have stops on each end, so I can only go so far. I have this set up to where it is straight up and down with my waves tube. So I know that it is a route. It's going to go in and go straight across back and forth again. The router itself. The router itself is a Harbor Freight router. It's just on a little platform here held in with the bolt that normally fits into this router, into this little plastic thing. I do have a slot in it so it won't twist and turn, but it fits this router. This router came from Harbor Freight. It was like a $29 router. So it's cheap, it's lightweight, and it serves my purpose. So I need to set this up, and it slides back and forth. The bottom deal slides back and forth this way. The router slides in and out of that platform. If you can see it or not, but it slides in and out on the platform itself. So that's my setup. I just need to figure out how far I want to set these blocks. So this one here is almost to the edge. I'm going to back it up a little bit. The stuff on my index wheel, I've made out just of a piece of wire, a piece of rod here, 1/8 inch rod, and I can pull it over, move it, and push it back in a hole, and then this spindle will not move. It's just a spindle lock to lock it at the 12 index marks that I have. All right, I got my router set up to where it'll only go back and forth a certain distance on this table. And when I push it in, I've got some marks down here on the bottom here, so I know how far I'm going in. I don't have to go in very far. I just have to go in. You know, I'm going to have this 1.5-inch hole on this side. The next hole I could go in here might be 1.25 inches. So I just have to go into where I meet that 1.5 inch hole or go past it. So it'll be a nice clean cut when I drill that hole through. So let me turn this on and start it. All right, so I have cut my first one in here, my first slot. And now I'm going to cut the next 12. I've gone deep enough, I believe, where I can get my 1.25 inch drill bit when I go through here. And I might come back and make it a little deeper just to ensure that it will hit it. I have all the windows cut. So the next step is to drill it out. You can see all the little windows I've got in here. And then we're going to drill it out. First, we're going to drill 1.5 inches. All right, before I drill it, I drill out the center. Let's talk about different windows here. The one I just did was I routed out the windows, so left a little ribs coming up. If you don't want it to look like that, like little windows, if you don't want it to look like that, you can drill it. I have a drilling platform. I'm using the same base that I had before. And this one here is just a base that I had made for a different application, still a Malay. But then I also made this little carriage thing that fits in it. It fits around my drill. This is an adjustment on the back here. So that if I'm not quite level, I can adjust this, you know, up or down or wherever I want it. And it slides back and forth on the carriage that's below. So to drill these, I would clamp this down and then just push these in, you know, drill it and push it in. And you can figure out the distance that you want by putting that tape on there again. So let me show you, let me go do that. I put a tape around here. I marked it so I have that diameter. All right, so here's the diameter that I had around the piece that I have right now. And it's 140 millimeters. If I take the 140, let's say I want to drill those 4 holes around. If I take the 140 and divide it by 4 for my 4 holes, then I end up with 35 millimeters for a distance, a total distance between this area. If I take an 1.25 inch bit, which is about 31.75 millimeters, on a different pointer here, and subtract that from 35, that only leaves me about 3.25 millimeters of wood between each hole. So I don't think that's enough. So if I take it down to 1.125 inches, that's 28.57 millimeters. And if I subtract that from 35, then I get 6.43 millimeters between the holes, as a rib between the holes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drill this at 1.125 inches and have 6.34 millimeters between each hole. And if I think that's too big, I can always turn it down and make this distance less. which would make this less if I want to do that. But I think this is going to be about right. So that's what I would drill the 4 holes around it with this one. So let me go play with that a minute. So with an 1 and an 1/8 bit in here, I have to decide where I want this platform to sit. And I think it's just going to be about right here. I know that I want my window to start right here at the edge of this and come up here somewhere. But I'm not going to mark this in yet until I get the holes drilled. I could center the hole further up and have more distance at the bottom, but I don't think I need that. I don't think that's going to help me in the appearance of it. So I'm going to clamp this down right about here and drill 4 holes. I'm also going to use the same index wheel I had before. Remember my little index wheel that I had made? Well, it's divided by 12. So that's easily, that's got 12 spokes going around it. So I can easily do this into 4s and drill 4 holes. Another option here, instead of drilling 4 holes, you could divide this by 6. So every other hole, and you would have 6 drill bits going around it, 6 holes going around. And if you use so it would be like using this one and this one. If I change that and I wanted to go in a second row of holes, I could go in between there and do the next 2. So it would alternate holes going across there. And I could have like 3 rings of holes. 6 holes, 6 holes, and 6 holes, but they wouldn't be all lined up. You would have a hole here, a hole here, and a hole there going around it. So I don't know if that helped any or not, but you could use the same index wheel to do that. So drill these 4 holes first. And again, you don't have to drill all the way through. All you've got to do is to drill down to where your 1.5 bit is going to drill 1.25. That's going to drill all the way through the center up here. You just have to drill to that point. So I'm going to drill 4 holes, not quite, maybe to nearly halfway through this thing. But I don't have to go to the halfway mark if I don't want to. And I can also tell on this, I should have a smaller bit, because this 1.8 is not going to be small enough either. You can see that the little pieces here are already awful small. and you don't want that. So I would go to probably an inch bit for this size and drill it.
So Bob, where did your calculation go wrong?
But you,
I wasn't, well, the main thing is the angle. You see how the curvature of this? When you cut it and it's, even though I've got the circumference right, I wasn't planning on the angle going around the side of that cylinder.
Oh, okay.
If
All right.
it was flat, you'd have more room across here, but it's not flat. You're actually drilling at an angle toward the other hole.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Okay. I
this really
understand.
ends up smaller.
Thank you.
Elongation.
Yeah, right. There you go. But yeah, a smaller bit works better here.
get the idea anyway. Well, it's not too bad right there. It's a little bit off, but let me sand a little more. I think it'll take care of it. All right, I'm ready to drill. Let me drill this thing out. First, I have to drill an 1.5-inch hole with this little candle. And I only want it to go deep enough to where this thing will fit flush in there. So I can drill it, turn it around and check it and see if it's in here far enough. Let me try that. Turn the lathe down there. It's not quite deep enough, so I need to go a little further. Okay, so now it's deep enough to sit in there flush. So now I just need to drill out that 1.5-inch hole, 1.25-inch hole for the center. It was 1.5 inches for for the light, and the center is 1.25 inches. You don't need to measure it because you can see it. You can see this thing drill all the way through here. I am going to use some air just so it kind of clears it out. So when you first go in, you want to kind of go slow so it hits that center or finds the center. Put too much pressure on it, didn't I? Oh. After looking at this again, I don't necessarily think it was pressing too hard. I think what it was, I went too far in with the router bit. So I ate away everything. There wasn't anything holding the ribs. They were just sitting there. And when it was cut through the cutting down through this, it looks like something probably hung and just twisted it. Got stuck in the rib and just twisted it right off. Because they definitely twisted it. Anyway, I don't know, but have to try something else. Okay, I want to make bale trees, a little hanger so you can hang them up. So this time I'm using a 1-inch dowel, and I just wrapped it around it, making the legs straight. And I know that I want to turn the thing back in. I just don't know how long I want this piece right here. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and turn it or bend it and cut this one off. Bend it in. Cut them off again. And then use this to straighten it up, form it. I've got it in here. And even this direction, I need to kind of make sure they are in line with each other. Maybe something like that. And let's see what that looks like. So I drilled this hole in these, and I can put it together just like that. Just squeeze it a little bit, and there's a little bale. That one's crooked. Maybe if I finally get it bent over a little bit and straighten it up. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. He's still a little crooked here, but it just takes working with it till you get it how you want it to look. I don't think that looks too bad. It could set down over the top of it like that. So that's it. That one there was a 1-inch dowel. You could do it with a 3/4 inch dowel, and just barely, go around the sides of this, make a smaller one. Or it could be a round loop. You don't have to have it like this. It could be a round ring up here. But this is just number 12 gauge copper wire. It's just like electrical wiring. You can buy by the foot at Home Depot. It's awful cheap. And if you want it a little brighter, you can sit here with sandpaper and brighten it up before you do that. And it does make it a little brighter and coppery looking. But that's it. Pretty easy to do.
All right. Let's see up back here. All right, so they were easy to do, but yeah, that's why that one broke. I did go back and make two more, and as long as you don't, when this router bit, when it goes through here, they're so close together, and it's at an angle coming in. If you go too deep, you take all the meat around in here all the way to that center away. So then there's nothing there to support it. This thing would still twist as soon as any little thing comes in off the shavings off of when it's drilling out the center. If it catches in here, then it will catch it and pop it, break it. But otherwise, they turned out pretty good. That's it,
Good.
guys.
Beautiful job, Bob.
All right.
Turned out
Thanks
great.
for
Thank
watching.
you.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Nice
A lot
job.
of great ideas for sure. Great ideas.
Anybody
Yeah.
have any questions for Bob on any of his processes, his indexing rig, or anything? Now's your chance to ask him.
Yeah, can I say one more word about that index? If you buy the index wheels, and I've got two of those too, but if you want, those are all divisible by by even numbers. If I had 12 going around this, if I wanted 11 going around it, I can't do it with a store bought one. Most of those are all divided by even numbers. But if you make your own, you can make it whatever you want. You can make it 11, 9, 3, and make your own index wheel. And they're easy to do. They're cheap. You throw it away if you don't want to keep it. But anyway, the idea is to be able to do it yourself without buying anything.
Very good, Bob. Good tips, sir.
Bob,
We're gonna break.
do you think
Go
it
ahead,
would be
Ted.
easier to drill that big center hole if you did it first before you cut your windows?
It would probably be easier to drill it, but then I was worried about it breaking through. You've got the router bit going through there, nothing to support the other side of it, and you're gonna just bust it out on the inside.
Oh, what?
And I didn't want to do that. That's the reason I drilled it first.
Right. I'm just thinking you don't have anything supporting those little spindles when you're drilling that center out. I don't know.
You will have if you don't go all the way. If you don't go as deep, I went too deep. If I went
I got you.
forward to the center.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
If you just go to where that inch and a quarter bit would pass the edge of the inch and a quarter bit, then it's still the roots are still attached to that centerpiece all the way down. Every bit of the drilling, it would still be attached to the center.
Sure.
What keeps the candle in place? Is that a friction fit?
Yeah, it's just a friction fit. I've got a little piece of sandpaper in here just to hold it. I just doubled it up and stuck it in there. But you could glue them in because the battery deal is right here. I mean, you don't have to have them back out again.
John Lucas on his write up in the AAW magazine was hot gluing. He put a little piece of hot glue in there at the bottom after he put the tea light in.
Sure, you
So,
could
yeah.
hot glue on the sides, just two little dots and hold it in here.
All right, thanks.
On some of that stuff, like Stuart Mortimer did those hollow forms with the binds up the side. If you turn the inside by hand, you can actually see the depth you're turning and work your way out to the thickness of the spindle you want.
Sure, if you wanted to turn it by hand.
Yeah.
But to me, it was easier to drill. I'd rather drill it than to have to get a tool down in here. I'm not that good at following.
Here, chicken.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bob.
No, it's not that hard because you can actually see what you're doing and the chips come out. It's not like turning a hollow form.
No, you're right. You can see it. Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Much appreciated for the demo as always.